says it's streaming live.
It says Lorena is there, but I don't see her. I just see her name.
Yeah, I don't think Lorena's feeling good today.
Oh, okay.
Larry, Kendra said she's trying to get on.
Oh, hang on.
Larry's ignoring it. He says too many
Okay.
faces on the TV.
Yeah. Okay, Amy's coming and Kendra's coming.
All right. Okay. Now
Yeah,
we
I
have.
just admitted them.
Okay.
I got
That's
distracted.
okay. We'll blame it on Larry.
Yeah, it's always Larry's fault.
Oh, she's gone.
Back.
She's
I'm in a
back.
camper, for goodness sakes. I'm in a camper. Give me a break.
Okay. Amy, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Okay.
You just
So,
let me in.
okay. So, Debbie.
All right. I'd like to call to order the Lawrence County Developmental Disabilities Special Meeting, July 28th, 2020 at 6:03.
Mrs. Baker, she's excused. Mrs. Cahow,
Here.
Mr. Gore,
Here.
Miss Jones,
Here.
Mrs. Piles,
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Right. We have a quorum. Debbie, before we start, could I introduce the teachers that are on the call
Yes, please.
before you start?
Yes.
Okay. Kendra and I did ask some of our teachers to join because it's such a big decision that we're going to be making about reopening the school, and with the complex needs that our students have, and the fact that the teachers know our students better than anyone. We've been in conversation with them, but we thought it would be good for them to be on the call as well. So we have Mary Beth Kelty. You could just raise your hand, Mary Beth. And Mary Beth actually has some extensive experience in online and remote teaching. So she's going to be heading up our remote teaching plan. And then we have Brenda Willis. And we have, looks like Amy Bailey.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Melina Justice.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Dawn.
And Karen Worley. So thank you for being in attendance. All right.
Okay. We have new business. Do you want to go over that, Julie?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. The first item is our restart, reopen plan for this upcoming program year. And I think most of the county schools have already released their plans or are close to. And we basically have, I did email this plan if you, I'm not sure if you received, did everyone receive a copy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if you look on the first page, there's 3 options that we have on here, and option 1 would be that we stay remote for the first 9 weeks and just do remote learning. Now, the teachers would still come into the building to deliver all the remote learning, because there's going to be a lot higher standards this time than there was last spring through ODE. There's going to be a lot more accountability expected from the students and from the teachers. So the benefits of that it would allow us some time to evaluate how things are going in our county with COVID. I just spoke with the health department director right before this call, and we are still a red county and cases continue to come in daily. So we just don't know at this point in time how long we're going to be red, but we have seen some indicators that there might be more restrictions put in place. We have the mandated mask order that was put in place. And in some of I don't know about Ohio, I do think Columbus city schools are delaying 9 weeks. And then there's some other schools in Ohio that are doing the same, just to wait and kind of wait it out and see. Now, the negative to that, of course, is we have kids that want to come back. Kendra's going to go over some numbers here in a few minutes. We did reach out to all of our families to try to ascertain how many kids would actually, be coming back and how many would do the remote learning option. And our kids would also, if we did go that route, it would be important for them to at least have access to come into the building at least one time a week to get their therapies in, because therapies are so important for our students. So the second option would be everyone comes, but they come 4 days a week. So they would come 2 days a week, and then Wednesday we'd be off for sanitization and then regrouping, and then they would come Thursday and Friday. The last option we have here is a blended option where students would come for 2 days. So around 50% of the students would come for 2 days, like a Monday, Tuesday, and then we would be off. No one would come Wednesday. Then the other 50% would come on Thursday and Friday. Now, as far as the other school districts in the county, the majority of them are going with the 5-day option with remote learning. And so families will have a choice. They either go to school, they wear the mask or the face shield, they stay 6 feet apart. But if they choose that, or whatever they choose, they'll have a choice they have to stick with for that semester. You can't go back and forth. So if you choose remote learning, you stay in remote learning to the end of the semester. I know South Point is doing something similar to number 3, and they're basing theirs also on the level that the county is rated as far as COVID cases. But we did meet with the teachers, and these are the three options that we came up with. There's really no right answer here because there's pros and cons to every option. So I'm going to turn it over to Kendra to talk about the parent feedback that we received. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Okay, so we tried to get a hold of everybody. We got a hold of 36 sets of parents, 36. That leaves 19 that we have not gotten a hold of. Out of those, 27 want their kids to come at least the 2 days a week. Now, there are a couple in there that if the masks are mandatory, they'll probably want to do remote. But I was just looking at the 19 that we haven't heard from, and best guess from what I've heard through the grapevine and from before, we sent out a survey before school was even out about how it was going. And it's probably out of that 19, it's probably half and half. It's probably about 9 want 2 days a week, at least 2 days a week, and the other 10 want remote. So that's right now, that's what we're looking at. Also, if we do the 2 days a week where kids can come in with all of those students that if they choose remote, Miss Kelty, Mary Beth has already said she would take all of the kids that want to do remote and she would be their teacher for all of those students. That way the other teachers would just focus on the ones that are coming face to face and what they have to do when they're at home. With that being said, with how many she's going to have that she's doing on remote, those kids could actually come and you utilize 7 classrooms. And I think we would have it that there would be no classroom that has more than 5 or 6, and they could easily 6-foot distance. So there is a chance we could have them come 4 days a week, if that makes sense.
The other thing I just want to mention is that we do have face shields
Yes.
as well as masks, and the health department said shields or masks, either one. They are highly recommended, and we need to do the best we can, but there's no actual mandate from the health department that they have to wear them. It's highly recommended that we keep them 6 feet apart and that they at least have a face shield on. So one of the ideas the staff had was to make that like a learning activity for the students to tolerate, the face shield or the mask. And we do have those in stock. We were provided several of those by the Emergency Management Agency. So we're stocked up on those.
And, for the most part, I mean, if you look at our population, I would say the majority of our kids, some parents I've talked to, they have been working with their kids as far as getting them used to wearing a mask and what they need to do and what that's going to look like. I guarantee you there are some that have not done that piece. So that's my thought process. Like, we can say that they have, it's highly recommended, but we are going to teach them how, because even those that have the sensory issues and can't stand, the mask, we can try the shield, but, we might as well face facts. They're going to be flying all over the room until we get into a routine and practice with them on how to do that.
And we are looking at plexiglass to separate, at least with the kindergarten rooms, right, Kendra? Or at least the young children.
Yes.
As an extra barrier on the tables.
And depending on how many students come back, there might be enough room that you won't have to do that. Now, when we did meet with the teachers, another concern that some of them had was, for us to be able to maintain that 6-foot distance, obviously you're going to have to move out, bookcases and toy bins and beanbag chairs and sensory corners and things that they play with, because they can't utilize those and have them constantly being cleaned. I think that will be the really hard part there. So, it's still, even if we go, it's still not going to look like what it has in the past. And that's how we educate them a lot too. So, that's another concern, as, we're going to have to be teaching them we can't hug, we can't, sit on your aide's lap or things like that. So that, there's going to be a lot of more than one curve that we're going to have to dance around.
And the other thing that we are concerned about is the other districts, most of the other districts are going to be starting, or at least that's their plan at this point. So Kendra spoke to someone today that said, if they can't come every day, then I may have to send them to their home district, because I have to have them going to school. So, that throws another complication into this, is we're trying to work cooperatively with the other school districts as far as, because we're relying on their transportation this year instead of providing our own transportation. So those are some other issues I think that make this more difficult. If we were to go too far off the grid of what the other districts are doing. So do you want to throw, board members, would you like to throw out some of your initial thoughts, and then we can answer your questions accordingly? Have any?
Well, I
Then we
think
would
it's-
have to, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Oh,
Steve.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Lou.
We would have to truly coordinate ODS with the other school, the schools in our district, right? Sort of, because of the transportation needs that we have.
Well, I'm kind of thinking, from what I've understood, and we'll have to double check with all of them, but I'm pretty sure each district that's going to be transporting, they're going to have one bus or a van that's just for our kids. It's not like they will also be on another route. I think they're going to have their own separate route, because even if it was, everything was back to normal, there are days we attend when they don't attend.
don't.
And yeah, we have different days off. Our schedules aren't exactly the same. So I'm pretty sure, but don't hold me to that, but I am pretty sure that they're each going to have their own route that's just an open door school route. So
Okay.
it shouldn't matter what we decide is,
Okay.
you know.
I know Ironton is, and I thought South Point, but I wasn't sure about the other ones.
Well, Fairland has in the past, and they only have a few.
Okay,
Sims Valley, I think, is planning just one, and they're the next district that has the most. The rest of them have a handful that could typically be transported on a van.
okay. Okay,
Okay. Thank you, Kendra.
You're welcome.
so Mike, did you have something?
Whatever the teachers would like to do, I mean, whichever works best for them. I think if they're used to being there, maybe the 2 days, Wednesday off for cleaning, and the other 2 days might be best. But then it's a great unknown, I guess. If you think there's a chance of infection, even with your cleaning, then a possible chance of somebody catching it from somebody else, you caught it from somebody else or whatever, then maybe remote learning is the best. So it's just, how do you pick?
Well, we'll be doing the remote learning regardless, because we do know that we have some that are going to choose remote learning. And then we have to have a well-established plan for remote learning in case, the governor would shut the schools down again. But as far as coming back, there's going to be risk with that, but there's also going to be risk, because some of our kids can't do remote learning and it's just not successful. Now they will all have pads, what are they called? Chromebooks. They're all going to have Chromebooks this year, which is different. We were able to get a really good deal from South Point on those, but it's not an opportune situation. It's not the best situation for some of our kids.
Right. And we talked about, like Julie said, being ready if the governor shuts us down. But I kind of feel, just me personally, I kind of feel that that's where we're headed anyway, with us already being a red county. I kind of feel that I would kind of like to, I'm not saying that it's best, but if they're already in remote learning, that gives teachers time to get ready. We know what the process is. Let's see where we are in October. See if this is any better. Bring them in, so many a day so they can get their therapies, meet with their teacher if they're just coming in once a week. you know, for however long that they can tolerate it. Not that that's the best, but if it continues to rise, you know, that's my worry.
Now, will the parents be the one transporting them in for their therapies, or will it be the school districts?
We haven't gotten that far yet. With it just being the one day, you know, if they have an assigned time each week, I don't know. I don't know if the districts will be able to do that. It might have to be the parent.
Which is going to be problematic.
It will be for some. It won't be for all. It will be for some. So I don't know. Now, if I could coordinate, like all one day, we do all the Ironton kids one day and they run their route, maybe we could do that if I have enough spaces. Because I think the most I think South Point might have 22 kids. I think they have the most. So it wouldn't be one-on-one, but it would be maybe 2 to 1 between different therapies by the time you have speech, and then you got to work with the OT and PT. They can't be there every day. So I don't know.
So do all the students get therapies?
No, not all of them.
So did you say the parents get to pick whatever choice they want?
Well,
Remote.
yeah, depending on what you guys say. I mean, if you're going to give them that choice, unless you say, you know, you really think that remote, let's just start off remote. And I think even if we start remote, there's going to be several of those parents that aren't going to want their student to come in, even if it's only one day for an hour or two. I think they just want to be sure, and they're not ready to send them back regardless.
So if we allow them all 3 or 2 out of the 3, what does that look like as far as allocation of your staff? Like, who's going to do what, and are you going to have enough people to do it? Like, if you got, let's say you choose remote learning, and what was the other one, the half in it on 2 days a week and the other half on the other? Right.
We would, because the way that we were doing it is we were going to do it by district anyway. Like South, I don't know, I was looking at the numbers depending, like I had South Point and Rock Hill and Sims Valley coming, and then the other 4 districts coming on the other 2 days, so that they would have a set schedule, and that would split up the classrooms. So the teachers shouldn't have more than 3 or 4 on any of those days. And then Mary Beth would just focus completely on the remote ones. I mean, it's feasible, it's doable, but I can't make a solid plan until I know what we're
Yeah.
I mean, it can be worked out, it can be done. And the transportation, like Miss Cahall said, is and you know, some of the parents are questioning, they're not real sold on is there actually going to be a 6-foot distance on the bus and things like that. So I think there'll be a few that will want to transport anyway. But we do have several students that could get their therapies virtually through FaceTime or whatever, if they needed to. It would just be the more significant need children that would need to come in. And again, like I said, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know how that for the transportation for the districts.
Okay, so we have, if we could at least narrow this down between just starting virtual and then on site, if we could get that far, then we can maybe determine what the on site would look like. But maybe we could start with, do we feel it's in the best interest of everyone to start out just remote? And if I could hear from a couple teachers, maybe, if you'd want to raise your hand, if you want to say something, I don't want to force you to. but I would like for everyone to hear your input. So let's consider if we just did remote for the first 9 weeks, teachers still came in. We did all the remote here at the building. Mary Beth leading that. What's your thoughts, teachers?
I will say it's totally doable, being all virtual. I know that there are a lot of parents who need their child to be in the classroom. And I know that there's a lot of children who learn best in the classroom with hand over hand, but virtual learning is possible. And I think it would give us a good opportunity to see where we're at as a county. You know, my biggest fear is that everybody's going to go back to school. Our numbers are going to go way up, and then the state is going to be shut back down, and nobody's prepared for virtual learning. And we're right back where we were in March. If we start out virtually learning and then we can gradually start coming back to school, that's a different ballgame, because we've spent, if you let me start now working virtually and preparing my classroom and preparing everything for all the students, then I'm ready and I've got a solid plan in place. But if you wait until October, and even if I've been doing it virtually and all these other teachers have been in the classroom, and then in October or November, if we were to get shut down, all the other teachers are going to be at the beginning of the school year again. We'll be back at March. And it's a panic situation at that point.
Okay. Anyone else? Brenda? Miss Willis?
I agree with Mary Beth. Unfortunately, we just don't know what's going to happen right now. I live in Scioto County, actually. In the past week, we have had 44 new cases. It doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon. And honestly, my fear is if we go back in person now, we're going to be out by October anyway. I think we need to, like Mary Beth said, build the foundation, have our virtual learning in place. And I hope that if we get to a point after that first 9 weeks, we see that maybe it's going to be okay. But I just don't think we can responsibly expose all of our students and staff to the unknown at this point. And also, you can't underestimate the effect of the restrictions that we would have if we go back in person. My room alone has, you know, a sensory corner and fidget toys and a bean bag. There are a lot of students that work best when they can give their concentration for a few minutes and retreat to a different area, or, you know, play with a fidget toy. The restrictions say that we're probably not going to be able to have any of those things. And I think that's going to be a very hard day for many of our students not to be able to hug a staff member, go to the sensory corner. It's going to be very rough. And, you know, we underestimate how rough that will be.
Thank you, Brenda. And when we did meet with the teachers, and one of the things I thought of was, you know, we're talking 9 weeks and we've already been out all these months. I mean, I know it sounds like why we don't want to wait 9 weeks, but we've already come this far with it. And I do know that our local health department, when I ran it by them today, felt that it was very reasonable to delay based on what we know at this time in our county. Would anyone else like to say anything?
Well, all of them have the ability to see it online.
Well, we're working on that. Having the Chromebooks for one will help immensely. even if they don't have internet, we're working with, and I'm going to have to, I told Julie today, I'd have to have a lot of conversations with Larry if we go completely remote. Seeing if we can't set up some hotspots, or I don't know.
I know
mean, I know
Ironton sent home like a list of local businesses where you could tap into their Wi-Fi even from your car.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
The
know if
only
we
problem with that, and when we talked about that, the only problem with that is, you have a lot of kids. A lot of our parents don't have transportation anyway. Then you have the kids that aren't mobile, that are in wheelchairs. Are they going to pack their kid up, put them in a wheelchair, and take them somewhere where they have internet? The majority of them have a cell phone, and that's usually government issued, and because they can't afford one otherwise. They have Facebook and Facebook Messenger, and that's kind of, the teachers did a lot of Facebook groups. They put videos up. I mean, it's going to be very creative. I mean, I have every ounce of faith in every one of my teachers and all of my staff that we can do it. I just want my parents to know it can't all be, packets. There's going to be a lot more in depth to that. And that's something that we're going to have to find out. How many of you do have internet service? Where's the closest you can get to that? If you have a Chromebook and we give you jump drives and we have videos on that for the parents to watch those videos, there's going to be a lot of teaching of the parents as well that goes into that process.
I have a question. You're talking about hotspots, maybe having a hotspot somewhere. Doesn't that use a lot of data?
It can. And again, that is just, but I think, and Mary Beth, I don't know if you were the one that mentioned this, but there were some providers out there that were offering hotspots for different areas. I don't know if any of our providers are doing that right now. That's just something that we would have to check into. Like we just upgraded and we got it. Ours is just in our regular plan, but all of our phones are able to be hotspots and it doesn't cost anymore. It's unlimited data. I don't know how many people have that or whatever.
Well, the reason why I asked is my daughter is in Colorado and she would use her phone as a hotspot. And I started getting charged for extra gigs of data. And I did go to an unlimited amount, but when it gets to a certain amount, then they want to charge me again, even though I have unlimited. And I've never understood that. So finally, she got internet.
Right. And that's possible. That part I am not a pro on.
I think it would be a possibility to possibly find out the students that need it the most, financially wise, or whatever their situation may be, and maybe approach some businesses to see if they might sponsor a student to provide services for them, maybe possibly contact Armstrong and HughesNet and see if there's some opportunities to provide something that way. Or, if they have Verizon or AT&T, maybe a service available in where they are, maybe we could get a company to provide a hotspot that way. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there.
So do a great majority of the classrooms have sensory things like Brenda was talking about in them?
Yes, they all do.
Okay. So I think that's a big push towards the virtual thing at the present time, the way the infection presently is, because if you actually have people in a classroom, each one of those pieces is going to have to be disinfected every single day, right?
Oh yeah, and probably there's some items that are going to have to be disinfected multiple times a day.
Yeah. So
I mean-
I mean, a beanbag. How do you clean a beanbag like that? I mean,
You can't.
Disinfectant.
Yeah.
but-
Spray it.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's,
So, it might be, I don't know, even if maybe there's some way we could get carpet squares and they have their own carpet square and they have to sit in the floor as opposed to a beanbag. Don't know how well that would go over. I don't, it's going to be a learning situation regardless of how we go.
right.
It truly is a no-win situation for our kids.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's killing me because I also know that if they're in my building, I feel that with the staff that we have a lot better chance of making sure that they're following guidelines and teaching them those, but they're still getting exposed, just getting there and being there. But
Right.
I also know, they're going to get food, they're going to get fed, they're going to, they're going to have people with them that care about them and they're watching them. And yeah, so it's a no-win.
Okay.
It's an impossible situation.
It is.
So if we talk about, can we talk about the option number 3 where they come, we break the capacity down to at least 50% and they come 2 days. So one group comes 2 days, then another group comes 2 days. That would be at least 2 full days that they're coming and someone's seen them, someone's working with them.
And they are seeing someone.
Yeah, and it would be 50% of capacity if everyone decided to come, which they're probably not.
No.
But just in theory, it would be half the students 2 days and half, which would give us more hands and more space and less people utilizing those sensory items. I mean, is that a happy medium here?
And there will be students that may opt to do the remote learning.
Oh,
Yeah.
we've already had probably about 15 that have opted for that.
And so what we were going to do is have Mary Beth do all those kids, like be the remote teacher. Of course, we'll have other teachers trained, but she will be the main teacher. That would be her classroom. So that would free up the other teachers to focus and give more hands towards the students that were actually present.
Okay, Mary Beth, if you are doing the remote learning and if we're doing option 3, some are coming. If something would happen that the schools would have to close down again, would you be in the position you were talking about before about being able to do the remote learning for all the students?
I wouldn't be, because I would have a classroom built for my 15 students, but the rest of the classrooms would be. They would be starting day 1. I mean, you're talking about, I would be having to have, if we do that and we go 2 days a week, then that Wednesday or whatever day we're off, those teachers are going to have to be getting trained and doing things. And that first 9 weeks, really and truly, I'm not going to be teaching English, math, science, and social studies as I am push enter on the keyboard. Push this button to turn your mic on. I'm going to be teaching a lot of virtual, just teaching the parents and the students how to get virtual. Because that's a big learning curve for not just our students, but the parents as well. And then it's still at that October, November point, then we still have a bunch of parents and students who are starting with that deficit.
Right, where your classroom would have already conquered that. And then
Hopefully.
you would have to start over with anybody else that would be joining, because if the schools would be closed down.
Correct.
Thank you.
But you would be starting, and I'm just going to come from a different angle. we did push the start date back. So all the teachers are going to be there 2 weeks in advance of the students. So they could
Correct.
get training then. And they could also receive training on the Wednesdays they don't have students.
Absolutely. But it so it would be more of our students being behind and having to
Right.
catch up than it really would be our teachers, I
Right.
think.
What would it be like if we did the first 9 weeks virtual and use it as our training and getting prepared for the worst? But if the best comes, then we can split up and go to the 2 and 2. That way, everyone, you've got your 9 weeks to get everyone trained, the students, the teachers, and everybody prepared for the worst, because if it does not slow down and there's no antidote or whatever, then it may be virtual anyway. But if it does slow down, we're a step ahead. We've already got our people trained. We can go ahead and split up into 2 and 2. And then if something happens, it gets worse, then we'll be better prepared to go to the virtual again.
Right.
That was my thinking, Steve. I mean, I agree with that. I think we need to have everybody on the same page for the first 9 weeks, and hopefully everything will go well, and then we can go to the 2 and 2.
Well, I'm hoping we can, because I think, the kids, the teaching will be much better if they're there at the school. Same for all the schools in the district. There's
Right.
something amiss when you go to total virtual, and I saw it this year with my 10-year-old granddaughter. And then there was a lot of kids who didn't have the internet capabilities. There were parents traveling in town trying to get on someone's Wi-Fi. I mean, it's like she lost the second half of her fourth
Yes.
grade. So I would like to see, I think we need to be prepared, use the first 9 weeks as our training, getting them used to it in case we have to use it past that. But then if we don't, we can split up and go into 2 to 2, because that cuts down the student to teacher ratio, makes it safer for everybody.
After the first, so we need to reassess before the first 9 weeks is over to make a determination for the second 9 weeks.
Right.
How do the teachers feel about that?
Considering how many cases we continue to get in Lawrence County, I feel safer. I do worry about my students. There's really no win in this. Either way, the students lose out in one way or another. As far as protecting them from getting COVID-19, it's probably safer that they're virtual, but then, they really miss out on a lot of that hands-on things that they need. So there's no win in this. I'm okay virtually. Like everybody said, I did virtual online school for many years before this. So I'm comfortable with it, and I'm comfortable teaching the other teachers. I'm comfortable teaching the students and their parents. It's just a matter of what the decision is to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think when you look at the numbers, I mean, they speak for themselves. And my concern would be if somebody were to come and then we got 1 or 2 students with it, what are we going to do then?
I think we need a backup plan real quick. And that's something we haven't discussed. What happens
Right.
if we have a case
Yes.
at school?
And
We need
this
to
would
have a
give us
plan in
time
place.
to develop that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think if they have a case anywhere in any school in Ohio, that's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back of the governor, and he's going to shut the state back down.
Yeah, and like I said, cases are coming in every day still. here in Lawrence County, from what I was told.
Yeah, and there,
And
I
our-
mean, there's already been several students that are in sports programs that have tested positive. You know, that's our, and they haven't even walked through school doors yet. They're just meeting on a football field.
Yeah.
So, you know, and they're outside. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as much as we want to think that everyone's going to take those precautions, let's just all remember back when we were sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school, we are not the smartest group. Okay. When you're that age, you're there for the fun part of it. You know, you're not worried about COVID. You think you're invincible. So
I'm leaning more towards, honestly, waiting for 9 weeks, getting everyone trained, getting a backup plan for if we do have someone that would come back and be positive. Kendra and I have talked a lot about this. I mean, we certainly hate, not being able to have the kids in the building, but the numbers are the numbers. I mean, we're a red county.
We're a red county, but we've had, 170 some cases. We have
Within the-
60,400 people in the county. All right?
Mhm.
So you do the percentage. But I think people has let their guard down during the summer, and they're not doing the social distancing and everything, and doing the masks and everything that's required.
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
Diane hasn't gone back to PCS yet. David and I are afraid to send her back because she likes to hug. The assessment, I think they have to do an assessment on her. But one of the questions that her SSA asked was, can she social distance herself? And I said, no, if she wants to sit right beside you, she'll come up and sit beside you, and you tell her she has to be 6 feet away. She has no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Will she wear a mask all day? She'll wear it. I know that she'll wear it for an hour, but I don't know beyond that. I mean, and I've seen a little bit of a decline in her. There are some days, I mean, my brother told me yesterday that he said that she was in the living room kind of crying. He said not tears, but kind of just like, oh. I mean, we packed her a lunchbox and he brought her down to my house and she thought she was big time. I mean, she was happy today for that. And I get her up and try to dance. I walk her up and down the sidewalk out front, but we know she's not getting the exercise she got before.
Right.
But we don't want to take a chance on her getting sick because she can't tell us when she doesn't feel good. I take her temperature every day. And, my life has changed. My brother's life has changed because where we did have time off when she was at PCS, now one of us has to be with her. And I mean, we would do anything for her. But I understand parents' frustrations, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but I understand what people are going through. But I just don't think I can send her back right now because she can't really tell us anything.
Right.
And our population is more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot of our students.
She's been vulnerable since the day she was born.
Right.
So I am leaning more for the virtual 9 weeks and evaluating that before it's at the end of that 9 weeks.
You want to evaluate at the end of the 9 weeks or maybe week 6?
Well, before the end of the 9 weeks,
Yeah.
we need to evaluate and see what's happening in the county and with our students.
Yeah, I would suggest the kids wouldn't actually start remote learning until August 31st would be the kickoff. By the time you hit the last week of September, the first week of October, and then the board meeting will be right after that. I'll kind of do an evaluation, see how everyone's doing, and then you all, bring it back to you for the October board meeting to determine what we're going to do after the 9 weeks is up. See how it's going, see what situation COVID's in, where we are across the state. If it gets worse, we won't have to worry about it. We'll still be on remote. So
I think it's a prudent plan because our students it's more difficult to assure social distancing. And there's a lot more sensory issues with the face coverings to deal with. And like I said, we're dealing with a lot of times more vulnerable individuals medically. So
and
it's different.
I think one thing that we could work on if we do go remote is, let the teachers get a plan how that's going to work. And then kind of gradually start introducing those kids that need the more hands-on and that have more of the therapies, and focus on getting them into the building 1 day a week first before we start adding the other kids that can truly just, be virtual. If they can be virtual and they're more higher functioning and they can get this stuff done. So we would start with those with the most need. And in that meantime, and all of this time up to that point, I can be looking at who has what therapies, how many kids can I get from what district, and see if I can't do something like that so that the parents don't have to transport. But I would have to, and that gives me time to talk to the districts and say, we might want you to pick everybody up first thing in the morning, but they'll be done by noon. So, you'll have to, pick them up and take them home by noon, maybe. I don't know. But it'll give me time to work out a plan for those that actually do need that face-to-face, the more intensive needs.
Are you going to do temperature checks on the pickups in the morning? Okay.
Now, anybody that's dropped off I think there's a couple of school districts, I believe Rock Hill, maybe Sims Valley, and Ironton, I know are doing temperature checks before they even get on their buses.
Okay.
Now, I don't know that all of them were, because I mentioned that and they said, well, we were just going to check at the door. And I told them, and I get that, but we have a really hard time once the kids get to school. Sometimes it takes forever to get a hold of a parent if they do have a fever. But yes, we have thermometers, and Nurse Jenny and a couple of our aides. One of my aides is a STNA, and we have our Code Red team that can help assess all the students before they even come in the building.
Good.
And we also have a room. It was our conference room, actually, that's right across the hall from Nurse Jenny's office. That will be our quarantine room, that if anybody comes down with symptoms, any kids or whatever, we would be able to hold with 6 foot distance, at least 3, if not 4 kids in that room if they would happen to get sick, until parents came in to pick them up. And they can't come back until they have to do everything that the health department says if they do have COVID, and they can't just ride the bus. They have to be brought back in and checked by our nurse. The parents have to bring them in.
Why aren't they quarantining 14 days and then doing a secondary test before that has to be cleaned before they let them come back?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the health department has put out, that they have to quarantine. And then she said it would be a case by case basis. Now, this was when I met with her, 3 weeks ago, Julie, maybe?
Yeah.
When I met with the superintendents and Georgia was there, and she said, some of the cases it'll be a case by case, but for the most part, they send the paperwork out. They tell, what kids have to be, if they are tested positive, they have to do a 14-day quarantine. They have to be without fever for 3 days with no medicine, no medication to keep a fever down, like no Tylenol, no ibuprofen or anything like that. And then determining who else was in contact and to the degree that she feels whoever was in contact, if they need to also be 14-day quarantine as well.
Lou, how are you feeling?
Okay. Okay.
A lot, isn't it?
Yeah. Kendra, in my business, since the state let me open back up, everything, I'm not allowed like magazines or anything like that in my shop, no food, nothing like that. It's a bare minimum, but anything that one of my customers, I do one person an hour. So anything that they touch, the doorknobs, sit down in a chair, get in my chair, my capes, anything that has to be disinfected before I can use it on another person. So
Right.
I'm sure that in the sensory corners with our individuals, the same would have to happen. And that takes up a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, and our individuals don't understand why they just can't go to it, you know, after someone else has sat on the bean bag or touched it. So I do know that is still into effect with me, and the cosmetology board has been waiting on another shutdown from our governor. So because of the COVID, that's, you know, and especially since Lawrence County's red.
Right.
So
and that's kind
I
of like
think-
what I'm with Julie on the starting remote and virtually.
Yes, yes. So I think the remote would be a good start for us, and then we can reevaluate.
We could do that.
That's
at
just
the
my
October-
thoughts.
Yeah, October meeting.
Do you need a motion for that, Julie?
I mean, are we done? This is for the school reopening plan.
And yeah, so what we would do is you could approve it, but we have to change it. You would be approving it with the with option number 1 being the plan.
Okay.
Is there a
starting the
motion?
remote?
Is there a motion for the school reopening plan? Is that what we're on, Julie?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be a motion to approve the 2021 school reopening plan as presented, and with the board choosing option number 1.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second it.
I think I heard Steve first.
Yeah,
He was first.
it
Okay.
was.
Mrs. K. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed.
Okay, what about review and approve a 2021 school remote learning plan? That's what we've also been discussing.
Yes, and that is, like I said before, it's not going to be like it was in March where you just fly by the seat of your pants. There's actual guidelines that we'll have to follow. There will be accountability measures in place. So this is a plan. The outline was given to us by ODE. We have to return it to ODE. So Kendra, do you want to add anything, or Mary Beth, do you want to add anything?
the only thing that I want to add is that I really want to work with that the as soon as the teachers get back, and I'll probably do some precursory conversations with Mary Beth as to what that needs to look like. We are going to be held accountable for their attendance. Students are, from what I've talked to other districts and even other DD schools that are opening or going remote, they have to have like virtual office hours. The kids have to be available so the teachers can get a hold of them if they don't have the internet access. So we just really need to see what's going to work best for our group here in Lawrence County, so that we can make sure that they get the most out of this education. It'll be tweaked some, but I will get you all a copy, and you should have one by the August board meeting, hopefully, that has a little more tweaks in it. And we might have a few changes after that. It has to be turned into the state by August 21st, I believe. Teachers come back on the 17th. So I figure after the first couple of days, we ought to have a pretty good idea what we are going to work on. And then I'll have Julie send one out to everybody, what our final draft is.
So we can table this then for now and put
Yes.
it back on the agenda.
It will be very similar to that. I can't imagine there'll be a lot of changes, but I really think that the teachers are the ones that are going to have to implement this, and they need to really read it and dissect it and see what's going to be appropriate for their students.
Okay, and you're talking about the remote learning plan requirements as indicated in House Bill 164,
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So the
And that's
plan
just-
right now includes all the requirements.
Right.
But we may need to tweak it a little bit when the teachers come back.
Right.
So that if they approve it now, will they need to reapprove it if there's tweaks made?
I don't.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying we might just want to table it for now, because once it's board approved, if it's changed, they're going to have to reapprove it. I'm pretty sure.
Just
Okay.
table
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Bring it back
We'll bring it back to the August. When's the August meeting? The 10th?
the 11th
11th?
next week.
Next. Maybe we will. Maybe no, not next week.
No,
2
2
weeks.
weeks.
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks.
2
Okay.
weeks.
Will that give you time?
Maybe. No problem.
Well, it has to be done.
Work.
It's going to have to be so we can get it uploaded to ODE. So maybe you and Mary Beth can work on it.
Yeah, we can.
And when's it have to be uploaded?
Not until the
Okay.
21st.
Okay. Okay, well, that gives us time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on. Hello, I'm in the meeting. I'll call you back. Bye. Sorry, my daughter was calling on 2 different phones.
Oh,
Okay, moving on to approve a lead developmental specialist position for the early childhood intervention program.
yes. You should have received a draft table of organization. And I had talked to you all about this at our one of our last meetings, and I wanted to go ahead and get it taken care of so that that'll just give me a couple weeks advance time to work on this, more time to work on it and get it started sooner, because we really do need someone in that position. Again, this would not be a management position. It would be a program lead to do some of the requirements of per the early intervention rule through DODD.
Is there a motion for the approval of a lead developmental specialist position for early intervention?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It was Lorena. That was Mike
Yes,
Mhm.
and Lorena.
yes.
Okay, Mrs. Baker, Absent.
Okay.
Mrs. Cahow,
Yes.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passed.
Okay, and last is to accept the resignation of board member Joel Utzinger.
Yeah, Joel sent me a resignation letter, and he is resigning due to personal reasons immediately. So I wished him well and, thanked him for his service. He did a great job. He was an outstanding board member. So certainly hate to lose him. His spot will have to be filled by someone that is a parent or immediate relative of someone served in a school program that's eligible. And I have made the commissioners aware, and they want to follow the same process that we did last time, where we collect all of the applications and then submit them to the commissioners for
Does
selection.
it have to be a school program or just someone in DD?
No, I think it has to be a school age. Someone with an IEP. It doesn't have to be someone at Open Door School. It can be someone in any school program in the county, as long as they're eligible for DD services. It could be an immediate relative of one of those students.
Okay. I make a motion to accept with regret Joel's resignation. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was that? Lou?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Cahow,
Yes.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Piles,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Need a motion to adjourn, please.
So made.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, well,
At
all in
7
favor?
p.m.
Aye.
All in favor, press the leave button.
First, I wanted to say thank you to you all for listening to us, and for my teachers that participated. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate the teachers participating.
We have a big job ahead of us in the next few weeks, but I
you
have
do.
no doubt that we have a great team that we can get this done. So
We do, and
Big
like
world.
Kendra and I were saying, our teachers, this is such a big decision. I mean, and then there's no right answer,
no.
and I cannot imagine not hearing directly from the people that are implementing whatever we decide, So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
And I know there were several that were watching on YouTube. They just didn't want to speak on the board meeting. They're a bunch of chickens. I'm going to get after them later.
There you
I
go.
don't want to speak on here either.
Me either. And I did more talking in this board meeting than I have in the whole 15 years I've been here.
Yeah, you notice those hard decisions, we kind of want more input. Okay,
I
well, thank
appreciate
you
all
all.
of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
See you all.
We
You guys have a
appreciate
good
you.
one.
See you in a
Thank
couple
you.
weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye.